Hello everyone, my name is Xian Lai and my partner is Ge Jiang. Today we are going to talk about degrowth. Our seminar question about a degrowth of variable response to the climate crisis. Our presentation includes these six parts. The first is the concept of degrowth. Degrowth is a concept that challenges traditional economic growth models, emphasizing that unlimited economic growth is not sustainable with limited Earth resources and ecosystem capacity. The idea is to promote a more equitable and sustainable social and economic structure by reducing consumption and production. Degrowth is not only about environmental protection, but also about social justice, emphasizing that economic activity should be consistent with ecological constraints and human well-being. The concept emphasizes environmental protection, social equity, and the improvement of quality of life, rather than the mere pursuit of GDP growth. And then I will talking about the degrowth development history. The term degrowth was first coined in the 1970s as a critique of the traditional economic growth model. The emergence of this concept is closely related to the environmental movement and the concern for sustainable development. The Limits to Growth report, published by the Club of Rome in 1972, it was an important background for the early formation of this concept. The report points out that if economic growth is pursued unchecked, it will lead to the depletion of natural resources and the deterioration of the environment. These views has prompted some economists and environmentalists to explore alternatives to economic growth, including slowing or degrowth. Subsequently, the word is gradually gaining popularity. For example, in the academic literature field, the first articles referring to degrowth in their title appeared in the English academic literature around the year 2006. After this, the popularity of articles with titles related to degrowth was not high, but steadily increased. The number of web pages on degrowth has been increasing by a factor of 20 since 2006, showing an average annual growth rate of some 115%. The number of Google searchers dedicated to degrowth apparently peaked in early 2014, possibly related to the degrowth conference in Leipzig, Germany. Then, in the public meeting field, the first international conference on degrowth was held in Paris in 2008. One conclusion of the conference was that this conference is a starting point, not a one-shot event. This year, in September, the ninth international conference on degrowth was held in Zagreb, Croatia. So, is degrowth a viable solution to the climate crisis? We hold a negative view. First of all, we see that degrowth itself has many problems. For the political feasibility, implementing degrowth policies could be politically challenging, especially in societies where economic growth is deeply ingrained as a measure of progress. As Kelly said, there is strong and growing interdependence between politicians and private interests, and the dominance of political parties depends on economic growth. The degrowth proposal runs counter to this trend. As for economic challenges, degrowth is a strategy that inevitably generates a lot of resistance as long as economic growth in most countries is indeed linked to important short-term goals, such as reducing unemployment, improving public finances, and improving social stability. The degrowth is unlikely to be accepted. Uh, and then, for the cognitive thought difference, in parts of Africa and many other parts of the global south, including poor communities in northern countries, the term degrowth is underplaying and doesn't meet people's needs. This is because they often suffer from poverty and the lack of the most basic needs. Some growth to reach more security in terms of survival is regarded logical. That's all I want to talk about. Next, Ge Jiang will further discuss why degrowth is a viable solution to the climate crisis.
Thank you, Xian. Now I'm trying to explain why we think that degrowth is not a viable response to the climate crisis from three parts as follows. The first is economic contraction or recession is not conducive to solving the climate crisis. First of all, during periods of economic contraction, businesses and governments may cut back on investment in environmental programs due to budgetary constraints. This may lead to reduced support for renewable energy, clean technologies, and other environmental initiatives, affecting progress in climate change mitigation and adaptation. In China in 2020, for example, as the economy suffered headwinds due to epidemic shocks and trade frictions. Compared to 2019, the amount of investment by companies in the field of air pollution prevention and control declined significantly at 20.4%. At the same time, businesses and governments may reduce investment in scientific research and technological innovation. This may hinder efforts to find more environmentally friendly and sustainable solutions to climate change. Again, take China in 2020 as an example. The environmental industry's R&D expenditure, the percentage of R&D personnel, and the number of patents granted for inventions all decreased. So, the capacity for research and innovation was drastically reduced. Lastly, as the chart shows, the sharp increase in global financial stress and the uncertainty in the second half of the year, compared to the general average for the first half of 2020, could weaken firms' environmental performance and reverse the progress made over the past decade. Crucially, even 3 years after the shock, firms' environmental performance has not returned to pre-shock levels. Similarly, firms' environmental performance deteriorates when economic output falls. Next, let's look at the second part. Economic growth is conducive to solving the climate crisis. Firstly, the government will increase spending on environmental protection. At the same time as the GDP grows, the fiscal expenditure on the environmental protection has increased year by year, and the proportion is also on the rise. The overall scale of the eco-environmental protection industry has maintained growth, and its contribution to environmental governance has also increased significantly. Secondly, economic development promotes scientific and technological progress to solve the climate crisis. As the chart shows, since 2005, US GDP has grown by 29%. At the same time, US emissions have fallen. Emissions reductions in the US have been a result of a wide variety of factors. This includes the switch from coal generation to lower carbon natural gas, the rapid expansion of wind and solar generation, reduced industry energy consumption, reduced electricity use in buildings, and the reductions in transportation emissions. Thirdly, I want to talk about the EKC, which is very interesting. The EKC theory suggests that the solution to pollution is economic growth. Although still debated, there is now a large body of evidence to support the application of the EKC to a variety of environmental health indicators, including air pollution, which follow an inverted U-shaped curve as per capita income and or GDP increase. The last is the absolute decoupling. In recent years, we have seen more and more examples of absolute decoupling. Economic growth accompanied by falling CO2 emissions. Since 2005, 32 countries with a population of at least 1 million people have absolutely decoupled emissions from economic growth. This means that absolute decoupling is possible. There's no physical law requiring economic growth and broader increases in human well-being to necessarily be linked to CO2 emissions. In the third part, I'd like to briefly mention 4 other reasons. First, even a now growing economy would always need fresh sources of energy and materials, ultimately depleting environmental resources and or sinks. Second, degrowth doesn't mean sustainable development, nor does it mean a direct solution to the climate crisis. Third, in the process of transformation, unemployment may rise, thus triggering social unrest. Some social groups may be more vulnerable to negative impacts, such as those workers who rely on traditional high-carbon industries. This could lead to weaker social support for climate change policies. First, the climate crisis is a global problem that requires international cooperation, but abandoning economic growth may make it difficult for low and middle income countries that urgently need development to accept this change. That's affecting the progress of global climate governance. In conclusion, degrowth will not only have negative impacts, but it will also fail to directly address the climate crisis, and may even lead to a decline in the profitability, financing, and innovation of the atmosphere protection industry. However, economic growth can enable governments to have sufficient funds to increase investment in atmosphere protection, develop low-carbon industries, promote green growth and a circular economy, and promote scientific and technological development to address the climate crisis. Although degrowth has its merits, we do not believe that degrowth is a viable response to the climate crisis. As Akbulat said, do not view degrowth as a vision that dominates all other views, but it can be viewed as one of many worldviews and understandings of life. That's all. Thank you.